So hello boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about glazing. We're all going to be glazing our sculptures. So I'm assuming you guys have your supply and your bisque piece ready to go. The bisque piece should have had resist applied to the bottom of it. The resist is purposely put on so that the piece does not stick to the shelf in the kiln permanently. So very important part. So resist. And secondly, you will take your sponge and wet it and make sure that you clean all the little debris and dust, and also create some porosity on your piece. So that's the first two things you're going to do before you begin applying glaze. Now I wanted to show you this big piece here because you guys did pinch pot for your animal or monster. I also had to do a pinch pot last year in my class, so this was my pinch pot. Big one. So your project will get growing and growing, and you see it has texture. This piece was done with underglaze. Underglaze, which is this product here. Underglaze is matte. It is mostly made of clay and stain. And you can apply it on your piece multiple times, but it will not waterproof your piece without applying a clear glaze onto it. So glaze is what we're going to be using today. Here in the school and most educational place use this product, Stroke and Coat. Stroke and Coat is great because it is made of oxide, silica, flux, and clay. So because it has a lot more silica in it, it will cure to a shine in the kiln when it's fired, and it will bond to the clay bisque piece, and it will create some waterproofing. So first off, now that we have our piece ready, we're going to take our brush and we're going to wet it in our bucket, and we're going to use our rag to wipe the excess water. And then you will take a dab of your glaze. See? You don't want to overload your brush because it will just make a mess and get everywhere, and you will see the result on your piece when it is fired. You want to apply the glaze in a painterly fashion. I'm going to do here so you can see. And you want to try to go in the same direction with your stroke. If you go every which way, that's going to show. You want to keep your brush just wet enough to get a nice application. See how that didn't apply very good there? I did not have enough water. Now I have too much. You see the difference? So a nice amount of wetness and a nice amount of glaze. And now you're in business. See how much better that goes? Now you will want to paint your entire piece color that you've chosen, and then wait for it to dry. If you're applying glaze on glaze that is not completely dry, you will get pull-aways, and I'm already getting some pull-away right here. See how this area is not as dark as the rest? Because once you start applying wet glaze on not so dry glaze, it comes right off. So now I'm going to show you how to apply your glaze to a texture piece. A lot of you put texture on your pieces, so that's important to know. The same idea is you get some glaze onto your brush. Again, not a huge amount. And be sure not to scrape your piece with the metal of your brush either. That's just doesn't work out too well. But when you apply on texture, you can paint it on, but you will see that some areas don't get covered entirely. So you have to dab your brush back and forth in this motion to really get it into the groove. That is about the only time you don't want to make nice smooth stroke. You want to poke it in there, make sure it covers all area. And that's how you do your texture. Now you guys should know that your first layer of glaze on the bisque will be the largest amount of glaze you'll put on your piece. Once you have your first layer on, the second layer will not take near as much glaze to cover the entire area. You should also try to work from larger area to the more intricate area, because glaze dries really quickly, and to avoid the pull-aways, you want to get in there, get the big surface done, and then go in and do your small areas, like around the eyes or around other areas that you're changing color with. And then we'll talk. Okay, so since we were talking about having to put a couple layers of glaze on, I wanted to be sure to show you this piece. You can clearly see that it is not opaque up in this area here. This area only has one coat applied. This area here has two coats applied, so you can clearly see the difference. And this area here, where the center goes to this has three coats. Clearly a much more opaque finish. So I wanted you guys to see this before you make your decision on whether you put 1, 2, or 3 coats of your chosen color. Okay, so I want to tell you guys about Majolica. Majolica was developed by the Babylonian, but it was made famous by the Italians. Italians made it famous because they used a cobalt blue color to give it a nice intricate design. They also used cobalt purple, which was very striking on the white, and it's also what made glaze become more commercialized and become used much more to decorate a vessel or a vase or a sculpture rather than just waterproofing it. Majolica, you want to put 2 coats of white and then use your texture or your brush on color that you want. In today's time, we use more than one color, not like the Italian. You can see a lot of design done on plates are done that way. So just kind of check it out. Okay, so the 3 technique of application we're going to use today is dry brushing, sponging, and using the slip trailer. First off, the dry brushing is done with a kind of old brush with really stiff bristle. For this, you're going to want to put a very small amount of glaze on your brush, even smaller than before, and you're going to sponge off the excess, and then you're going to apply it to your area. You have to rub pretty hard to get the color on there. Can you see? This is great for hair, like inside the ears, or whiskers on a cat, or that sort of thing. So I thought you might like this technique for this. It's always comes out better when it is a complementary color, or black on white, or blue on white, that sort of thing. The next one is sponging, which again, we've seen this during the construction of our sculpture. This is just a plain little kitchen sponge. This is also great to use complementary color on top of one another. Like say your piece is yellow and you want to give it some violet highlights on it to give it the feel of being violet but with some yellow coming through. It makes a great texture, so again, you don't want to overload. Small amount. And you apply it kind of like this. You just kind of punch it in and see you get a funky design that's irregular and that lets the other color come. Our last technique is using the slip trailer bottle. The slip trailer bottle can be dangerous, so be very safe with this. It's got a needle, and this will need to be cleaned very thoroughly. Now the slip trailer is awesome for making dots, lettering, drawing a sketch, kind of like the one we had on the Magelica piece. We had this little guy here. That's done with the slip trailer. Important with the most important with the slip trailer is that you want to let all the glaze come to the bottom here before you start squeezing. Once you have that settled in, like mine has been because I've used it a couple times now, you can squeeze lightly. You don't want to squeeze too hard because you'll just make a big mess again. So small squeeze, you will get a dot. Can you see? Bigger squeeze, you will get a big dot. Now for lettering, I like to make dots and fill in between. See? You can squeeze as you go also to make all sorts of design. Write letter, do your name, cloud, or just a series of dots. Tile. The other thing you need to know is once you're through with this, make sure that you put back the color that you use in its original container because we don't want to waste glaze. Glaze is expensive. Secondly, you want to make sure that you clean your bottle properly all the way with clear water, and the clear water needs to be coming out of the end of the needle part of the tool. So to review, we learned how to apply glaze on a smoother surface. We learned how to apply glaze on a texture surface. We learned how to use texture as a glazing tool with dry brushing, sponging, and using the slip trailer. Hope you enjoy working on your piece, and good luck with it. I hope you thought well of the colors you want to use and your color harmonies. Can't wait to see them.